Hey guys, this is Tom Box. Thank you for the well wishes, guys, and we're back in business. In today's video, we are doing Combo Breaker. Yes, Combo Breaker, the episode where we break apart combos, expose their weaknesses and choke points so that you'll have an easier time defeating these combo decks. Although I guess Dragon Link is the most popular combo deck, it isn't exactly the most successful as of recently. Prank Kids are still among some of the best, and as for a mid-range deck, we have Bird Up. So technically 3 decks, or rather 3.5 decks, because we're going to look into Shinping's variant of Dragon Link as well. So smash that thumbs up button if you guys want to see something like that, and I'm going to invoke my magic here of Dark Subscription Attack. That was pretty lame, I'm sorry, but let's get started, guys. Oh, just a quick note here, for those of you guys who want to know the details of where all this stuff came from, Hanko's TCG Player articles describing his Prank Kid stuff, you have Shinping's 3-part video describing his variation of Dragon Link and how it plays and how it combos, there's Pack Stream, and a lot of it's coming from personal experience, just playing a lot, and you'll eventually catch on to various weaknesses. Links are down in the description, and to my dearest Patreons out there, make sure your address is up to date. Okay, thanks, bye. Let's do this, starting off with Dragon Links, guys. Okay, so 2 variations of Dragon Link. There is the Dragon Maid Tidying and Dark Dragon Link, which focuses more on the rocket side and darks so that you can pop off Silver Rocket to rip your opponent's extra deck. So we're going to start with the Tidying variant, and we're going to go through each choke as we play through the combo. This hand's busted so that we can extend through a lot more things. So starting off with talking about hand traps, there's going to be Ash, Gamma, Nib. Are they effective on their own? No, but if you pair them together, you can at least do something. However, the deck can push through it, which is why it's good, but it's not great even as a pair. But you still probably have to play it because it's effective against other matchups, because you're not just playing against Dragon Link for one thing. And let's get started. So we're gonna start off with the Safer here. Safer, we're gonna activate the effect of Safer to add a Black Dragon. And when they do that, should you Ash them? Like, if you look at my hand, like, you guys tell me, should we throw an Ash on this? And the obvious answer is no, because you can easily extend through it, and that's what I want to bring to your attention, is that sometimes things can be extended through and there are higher priority targets to hit. We're gonna add the Black Dragon. This is the key point here. If you have a Droll, throw the Droll out. That's good. If they have Gamma, that's unfortunate. Do you want to wait for them to get the boot sector launch before you throw the Droll? I personally would just throw the Droll, but because it ruins most of the searches. You're stopping the White and Black Dragon, all the Chaos Spaces. You're stopping the Romulus. You're stopping out the Striker Dragon. That's a lot of cards that's not going to your opponent's hand, and that means the resource that they have is going to be very minimal. They have to hard draw a lot more cards. That's why Droll is going to be effective. And if you see a Saver thrown into the graveyard with like a Chaos Space or something along those lines, you should kind of think about, do you want to Crow it away? If you have a Crow or any sort of banishing or removal based card, should you get rid of the Safer? It's worth considering, especially the light dragons or any sort of light target, because those are much harder to come by, and that would force them to use other cards in their hand to push through. Now this hand's busted, which is why I can just keep comboing through whatever. We're going to activate War Legacy Guard Dragon, and we're going to revive Safer. You can probably just Crow it at this point. It's pretty effective. If you can actually Crow me right here, I'm stuck with a quick launch, go into Noctovision, and I can go into, if I want to force myself to continue comboing, I'll be forced to go into Romulus. If they do the Romulus play first, that means they're going to be a lot more susceptible to Nibiru. Nibiru is going to be extremely effective, and every other hand trap is also going to be a lot more effective because it is not a Hieratic Seal. And if you force them to end their turn, Hieratic Seal is not on board and not in the extra monster zone, then there's nothing really too much to worry about at that point. So we're just going to revive our card. We're going to special summon the Safer. We're just going to go into Striker Dragon. Not much to talk about here. Like, if there's any sort of floodgate, now's the time to use There Can Be Only One, because the whole deck's reliant on dragons, and having the dragon already on board, there's only really 2 outs: Chaos Dragon Levianeer and the Dragon Maid Tidying. Dragon Maid Tidying, you can probably play around if you're going to use TC Boo by kind of baiting the timing so that they're always 1 turn behind. Like, they want to get rid of it, they try to play, but then you flip it on them again. You want to put them in that situation, which means you at least buy 1 turn where you can punch them for free. Okay, so at this point, let's just make the Striker Dragon. We're going to do the whole chain block shenanigan. We're going to use Noctovision. This hand is really, really good anyway. And get ourselves a summon. Okay, so we're gonna go into a Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. We're going to activate the effect of Noctivision, draw a card. That's really nice. Ooh, a Rocket Recharger. That's pretty good, especially with Boot Sector. That means I already have an additional dragon. I have 1, 2, 3 ways of summoning an additional dragon onto the field. We're going to use the black dragon in this case, and which is why if you have Lancia here, the turn more or less is just going to be forcing a lot of the hard resources that are committed onto the field to be played, which is, I guess, a bit harder for your opponent to deal with. But ultimately, we're going to continue with this now. And here's the thing. The moment they get to perhaps the LP or Pisty, and if you went first, if you want to break the combo from getting any further, Torrential and Needle Sealing, those are also pretty good cards to break something like this. Now we're going to go into the Black Dragon. In Black Dragon, we are going to link this into LP, and this is how we're gonna move. We're just gonna use World Legacy Guard Dragon to move it over. We're gonna use Black Dragon to add White Dragon. This is gonna be effective to give me an additional extender, and we're gonna move the LP over. Now for the good, I would say the good Dragon Link players know not to commit too much into the field. Like, you can get 4 disruptions, but if you do a 4 disruption, you open yourself to another weakness, which is Super Poly. Super Poly is quite dangerous. If you have a Super Poly set right now, sure, nothing can happen. But if you don't have the World Legacy Guard Dragon, you'll be forced to go into an LP Striker or an LP plus Pisty, and then that will get super polyed off, and that's brutal because neither of your effects would have gone off. But in this particular case, that is not going to be the case. Now you can go activate LP. You can go into Brotar. You can go into Chamber Dragon Maid. Personally, Chamber Dragon Maid is more of my liking because you get that generic, doesn't matter whether it be grave or field disruption. So we're going to add the Dragon Maid Tidying. Tidying is such a good card, man. And let's just set it onto the board. I'm not going to establish the best of the best board because I can, but like I don't see the point because most people pretty much want to conserve resources and just want to grind out their games against you. You can go into your Pisty now. Pisty is going to revive the Seifert. So at this point, Super Poly is really painful. You're not going to get hit with a Dark. You're going to get hit with all 3, and that's going to turn into World Legacy Guard Dragon Armaduke, and yeah, that's that guy can punch every single one of your monsters for one thing. And you lost your Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. Establishing a board once again now, you're going to need 2 dragons to kick everything off. Yeah, you can still end on something, but if you commit into Heretic Seal for 1 card, that requires 2. That means if you do the math with the hand right now, you'll need another copy just so that you can quick launch into like perhaps your rocket stuff at this point. And if you got hit by the Super Poly, yeah, I don't know, you only have really 2 disruptions when you finish your board. It's just not pleasant. And okay, so from here we got our Safer back. We can go into Romulus, getting rid of our guys here. We're just gonna add a copy of a Dragon Ravine. This hand is really, really good. So another card that they can probably play into is Appaloosa. This is already pre-set up to Appaloosa. Don't do Double Dark just because of the Super Poly shenanigan, but you can do this. So if I want to maximize in some sense, send a dragon to the graveyard. Let's put the Absolrouter into the graveyard. Therefore, we can summon up 2 dragons, and we keep the quick launch, and we keep the white dragon. This is why we can extend so well. Let's go ahead and add the Rocket Tracer. I'm not going to commit into making hot red unless I have to, but let's go with the Boot Sector launch. We're committing quite a few cards here. So if you look at the board building, if you went first against this deck, you can probably pretty much set up torrentials and stuff like that, which is why a lot of the decks now, they run Cosmic Cyclone in the main, because even a combo deck runs a lot of back row. And Dragon Maid Tidying, like before you commit a single card, if you just use the Cosmic Cyclone against, say, something like Tidying, or use like a Feather Duster against a Tidying, it makes it very annoying for them because they just lost a disruption that should be more or less free, but they're definitely not getting the best bang for their buck now. And let's see what we can do here. We can go into an Appaloosa for sure. Let's just get rid of all these guys. And now we have an Appaloosa. And with the Appaloosa, we can totally just go into Striker Dragon, Revive back. That's just excessive at this point. We're just trying to minimize everything we do here. Grab ourselves a Rocket Recharger, and we can finish our board with at least something half decent. Like, I know this is probably not the most powerful board out there, but this is the kind of board that we're trying to build when it comes to like, oh, I want to control the board, I want to be able to play. Disruption is like what, 1 2 3 4, and this board is not super polyable for the most part. You just have to minimize all that stuff. So when it comes to breaking the board, Dark Ruler No More is of course a card that comes into mind. A lot of people are thinking about baiting the Savage and then go into a Kaiju Slumber, which is also very effective, because with Kaiju Slumber, then the Tidying is also dead, and the seal is basically forced to activate just so they can drop another monster back onto the field to regame, which is why the seal is probably one of the strongest aspects of this entire board. Yeah, and it's also one of the most recursive. You can also play stuff like Evenly Matched to kind of wipe apart most of the board. So I guess final remarks is it really depends on what they have in their hand, but if you only have like single Ash, single Gamma, single Nibiru, should you use it? Probably target onto the LP. The less access they have into their deck, the better. Clearly, if they have, the more they have, the more that you're gonna have to deal with. Phantasme, I kind of forgot to talk about that, but Phantasme, hit them when they have 3 links. When they have like the Heretic Seal and both LP and Pisty Guard Dragons on the field, that's when you hit them with a Phantasme. That cancels out the Dragon Maid Tidying. It just works nicely overall. It's a really good trade, and that's why the second variant of Dragon Link also exists. And if you went first and you want to break their board, prevent them from getting their setup, TC Boo is one of the great ones. You can use Needle Sealing. You can even use single removal during the arrow phase of setting up a lot of the board. Those definitely work as well. It's pretty effective as well. And yeah, that's kind of the rundown for breaking Dragon Link. Okay, for this part, I'm just going to quickly showcase Shu's combo, which is the Dark Dragon Link. I'm not sure if it's his combo or not, but he did showcase it in his YGO lab. Check it out if you want to see how he can play through Nibiru and end on the exact same board. Eating Nibiru, but they just have to change up 1 or 2 cards so that you have 1 additional Dragon Extender, and it's the same board, which is insane. In terms of weak points, we're going to talk about it as we go. We're going to normal summon out the Silver Rocket, special summon out the Absolutor. If you see something like this, it's a hard read. I mean, some people just tech 1 Silver Rocket anyway, so you could still be the other variant. You're not really getting too much of a read, but it's more likely going to be something like the Dark Dragon Link. But anyway, starting with the Striker Dragon, we're going to get to Boot Sector. Boot Sector is going to be very effective. Probably could Ash something like this, because you know that there's an Absolutor. That means there's guaranteed going to be a Dragon Summon. And if they open the board exactly like this, yeah, you could probably take a safe swing with an Ash on the Striker Dragon. But as for the rest of this, if you have any sort of hand traps, just hit it at the exact same point as I mentioned previously. From here, we're going to go into the Heretic Seal. If you have a 1-card combo, you start with a Romulus, you can still end on the same board, but Nibiru will crush your board. And well, if you're stuck with a 1-card combo, Nibiru, you're basically destined to eat the Nibiru. It's your unmei to eat it. Anyways, going to continue with this particular combo, we're going to add a Rocket Tracer into our hand from the Absolutor. We're going to use Boot Sector. We're going to summon out the Rocket Tracer, and this is enough to actually set up your entire combo. It seems very minimal, but it's enough. We can pop the Boot Sector launch now, and this is going to grab the Rocket Recharger. Leave the Silver Rocket in the deck because you're going to activate it during your opponent's turn anyway, so you're going to use a double pop to rip 2 cards from the extra deck. From here, we're going to go into our LP. We're going to link into LP. Now we're also going to link into a Striker Dragon. The monster that you summon have to be in a very particular order. If you mess up the order, the thing is over. At this point, super poly off this board, and then the game is over for them, because they shouldn't have anything if they're forcing themselves to play into it. Now we're going to summon out a black metal dragon. Don't go into the Brotar. That stuff won't work. You won't have the proper hand manipulation for this. We're going to turn this into a Pisty. And this Pisty, we're going to use black metal, add red MD. Activate the Striker Dragon. Pop itself. Grab, I guess, anything, honestly. Just grab... actually, not anything. It has to be Rocket Recharger. Almost forgot. It has to be Rocket Recharger. Use Rocket Recharger's effect. Summon back something. And we're going to summon back, say, a rocket monster. Let's just go with Tracer. Let's put it onto the field. And then we're going to activate Pisty. Pisty has to revive anything but your rockets if you want to do something right. So we're just going to go back and grab back our Striker Dragon. And from this point, we're going to turn the 2 Pisty LP into Delindrous. And now we're going to special summon out the Red Eyes Darkness Metal by banishing the Striker Dragon. See what I mean? Why it has to be a Striker Dragon? So with this particular part, we're going to activate the Red Eyes Darkness Metal just to give us an additional body to play with. We're going to need the additional body anyway. And we're going to go into Silver Rocket. I guess... something for you to link off with the Rocket Tracer is what we're looking for. So we're going to summon out the Silver Rocket. Red Eyes Darkness Metal is going to go into the Rusty with the Delindrous. You know, it's all dark, who cares? Activate the Rusty. Dump into the graveyard the boots, add a Fog Blade, set the Fog Blade, and then add the Fog Blade, and now you have double Fog Blade, which is a nice addition the play. Wow, is it over? It is actually not over. This is the part where you go into Quad Boral and you can activate Quad Boral's effect, and you're gonna pop the Rusty. And since it's a 3, you can summon out all 3, basically Soul Charge. This is kind of this is like a classic shoe play, and now you have all 3, and now you also have Delindrous. Summon out the Delindrous. Delindrous now is going to fetch into our Unchained Abomination, and from here you can synchro into a Borreload Savage. Alright, we got our Savage. Activate Savage. It's a pretty big Savage this time. It's 3. And during the end phase, the Abomination will pop the Silver Rocket. Silver Rocket will rip a card out, and then you'll also summon out a Rocket Tracer. And then during your opponent's turn, Rocket Tracer is going to pop itself, get yourself a Silver Rocket. That's going to get the Abomination to pop that Silver Rocket, ripping 2 cards out of their extra deck, making it very difficult for people to play most things. That's this particular set of the combo. So how do you break this particular board? It's very difficult. Dark Ruler's not going to be an option. You're stuck with stuff like Forbidden Droplets, and even after all that, what I love about this is that the negation stuff is layered because you have both back row, which is again why Cosmic Cyclone, like Harpy's Feather Duster, even in the main deck has value because combo decks do run a lot of back row as well now. So that's where that kind of comes in, you know, combo breaker. Okay, for Prank Kids, a lot of the stuff you can find in Hanko's TCG Player article, link in the description. So from here, we're going to look into the very first choke point of Prank Kids. We're going to normal summon, and there it is. There's the choke point. It's just that they can't really normal summon additional monsters, and they need the normal summon to kick things off. If you Ash the Lampsies and they have no follow-up, even if they have a handful of Prank Kids, it's not going to be very good. So if they do nothing and pass, then there's your free turn and your opponent basically will die. However, there are additional cards that can help follow up, such as having Prank Kids Place. That's additional monster. It does help. There's also Prank Kids, what's that card? Prank Kids Pranks that can generate the token, but that also requires them to have additional Prank Kids monsters or Prank Kids cards in their hand to generate that token so that you can go into the doodle do. And so if I did get hit by an Ash in this particular case, I'm okay because I have also Instant Fusion. So Pandemonium, Instant Fusion, and Prank Kids Pranks with additional Prank Kids cards are the ways they can generate the second body so that they can go into the doodle and eventually set up a Pandemonium and just basically protect themselves from getting killed and advance their game state. Their advancing of game state just generates a lot of monsters. So that's weak point number 1. See, I activate the Fansies now. I'm just going to send to the graveyard. So combo wise, if you're trying to learn the combos, if you send Dropsies, then you summon Lampsies so that you have all of them. But ideally, if you didn't start with any of these, you gotta go into Fansies, because Fansies will toss the card into the graveyard so you can fetch it back with the Doodle. Doodle adds stuff from graveyard and also adds stuff from deck, which is why it's the best card to keep the engine going. And that is priority target number 2. This card is going to be very hard to hit because it's always going to be something like this. It's going to be Chainlink 1 like right here and Chainlink 2 with the other Pranked monster. How are you going to hit it with an Ash? You can't. So if you can't hit it with an Ash, I highly recommend you to use an Effect Veiler or an Imperm so that they can't even go into the graveyard. So you kill 2 effects with 1 stone, and yeah, what do you want me to do? So at this point, if I didn't have Pandemonium, I would add the Pandemonium. And here's the thing, do I actually summon out the Pranked monster? If I summon the Pranked monster, that would be summon number 5. Remember, normal summon, and then I special summon the Miyamamu. And the Miyamamu link summon led into the additional monster. That would have been 3. This is currently number 4. If I summon 1 more, that means I will be nibbable. But if you already open with 1 additional Pranked monster that is part of the Battle Butler line of material recipe, then you can choose, no, I don't want it. And that's if you truly are playing around Nibiru. And that's how you do it. If you only have a 1-card combo and you're okay with eating the Nibiru, then that's fine. Otherwise, you can only really fusion it into a Weather Watcher. So say I don't want to summon it out, and that's how I'm gonna play my board, and I say I didn't have the Pandemonium, I would add the Pandemonium. Otherwise, you can add Pranked's Place. If you already have it, that means your 1-card combo is also going to be continue to be Nibiru safe. So say I add the Place since I already have this, but ideally this should be your number 1 search. And this was negated, think about it, and if it was negated, I can't do anything. I can add a card and I can still have the Pandemonium, and that's a decent follow-up, and I'll probably set a card. I'm going to activate the Doodle. I have Lampsies, and I have, that's really it. So I'm going to go for Dropsies and Fansies. So when I send, or not send, but set the Pandemonium, I'll have my Battle Butler. Now, weakness number 3, or rather number 3, is that Pandemonium can only be activated during the main phase. And since it's a main phase only card, that's the biggest limitation there, which is you can get Cosmic Cyclone. And if you get that card, Cosmic Cyclone, that is going to hurt. So just shuffle up your hand before you set it if you're going to be playing the deck. And for those of you guys who are playing like stuff like Twin Twisters, yeah, standby phase, just toss it. It's worth it. You don't have to deal with a Battle Butler. A double Raigeki hurts a lot. And not only is it a double Raigeki, it's Battle Butler plus 3 other monsters on the board. That could lead to an access code talker that can kill you. I don't think you want to proceed down that line of play anyway. So just be very wary when it comes to that stuff. And yeah, that's the limitation right there. And if they have additional set cards, probably the Ice Dragon's Prison. This is from Hanko's build, by the way, so there are going to be some variations of traps. Some people even run, there can be only 1, because they can manipulate their monsters so that they don't summon into the same typing, because they are Thunder, Pyro, and Aqua. And yeah, once I pass turn, you can see this is what's going to happen if I can get past to the main phase. First action is done, then you activate the Pandemonium, and once the Pandemonium is active, it gets you can go for Weather Watcher in any case, and there's also Battle Butler. Now, time to talk about all the other things that we need to know. Most of this stuff is of course not ashable, because whatever, I'm just gonna ignore most of the summons here. Like, you're gonna summon 3 monsters here, all right? Not only you're gonna summon 3 monsters, that means you'll have 4 cards here, a total. Torrential Tribute, Needle Sealing is also a really good choice, even if it is Needle Sealing the turn after, because you can just pop everything, and your opponent will have to basically reset everything, which is not too hard for them for most cases, especially if they can fuse into a rocket, whatever that card is called. Is it Rocket Ride? So if they can go into Rocket Ride, then they can just get everything back. But Needle Sealing does disrupt the flow quite significantly. Torrential Tribute, anything that is just mass removal, evenly match, is also not too bad. Droplet's pretty good for dealing with the Battle Butler when it has a Meow in the graveyard. Call by the Grave, it's like, oh, should I Call by the Grave? The thing is, it's only gonna work half the time. If Meow is in the graveyard, it's not gonna tribute itself. So that's one of the biggest limitation right there when it comes to that particular play. And as for other cards you can use, Kaiju Slumber, it's not bad. You can also Kaiju the Battle Butler when it comes out. But then your opponent, if they're smart, they'll wait for you to commit, because this is also a quick effect. So the Raigeking is going to trade at least with 1 or 2 cards. And so to kind of summarize the weakness of the Prank Kids, the first summon of the Link monster, that is a very big choke if they don't have a follow-up from Instant Fusion, Prank Kids Pranks, or the Prank Kids Pandemonium. Those are like 3 of the key cards, and they have to add additional Prank Kids in their hand to do so. That's one of the big one. And the second one is the Doodle, especially with the Effect Veiler or Imperm, that would essentially reduce their resource by 2 from their hand, and that's quite important, especially if they don't have the materials needed to build a board during your turn with the Pandemonium. And speaking of Pandemonium, you can hit it during the standby phase before it hits your main phase, which is also important. And one key note here, this is a ruling thing that you should pay attention to, is that Prank Kids Pandemonium locks people into only summoning a Prank Kids monster. A lot of people tend to forget that, and they go into other big Link monsters after the fact, or they try to use Ice Dragon's Prison while under Prank Kids Pandemonium. That is a no-no, because you can only summon out Prank Kids monsters. Like, I guess in a mirror match you'll be fine, but like non-mirror match you won't be fine in those particular cases. So that's something to keep in mind. And also the lingering effects of the Weather Watcher and the Bow Wow Bark, both of those you gotta pay attention. Like, one prevents things from being destroyed by battle. If you have both of those active, it's a lingering effect. Basically, all of your Prank Kids monsters, they are not killable. If you guys have enjoyed what you've seen so far, well, take a few seconds to hit that like button for me. I really appreciate you guys for doing so. And if you've been here before, why not take a chance to subscribe to MST.TV? It's free, and there's a lot of fun stuff coming up. Aside from me getting sick all the time, I am working on a very large project, and you guys definitely want to be there when it happens. And the 6969 box is part of it. I'm putting that into a series, and I'm filming it as we speak. But it's not just going to be it's going to be like full-fledged series video. So subscribe to that if you guys want to see it, and that's going to be one of the large giveaway. The value is like what, $300 something at the moment, but that's cool. Anyways, back into this video, guys, and shout outs to Yishan for providing us with a 9 combo variant of this deck. Like, insane amount of detail. So go check out that video if you guys haven't done so already. If you're gonna be playing this deck, you probably already watched it, but we're going to be breaking apart the biggest combo and exploring every angle of the weakness, since this one kind of goes through like most of the deck and most parts of the deck. We're gonna have to get ourselves a Fractal into our hand first. So we're gonna grab the Fractal. Now we have Fractal and Warbler. Key point here is there's a lot of searching that occurs. If they have to start with a Tenki, you just droll them and hope that nothing else can really follow up. There's 2 things that you have to keep in mind. They banish a lot, and then they also search a lot, and that was the first search. We're going to activate this one. Do you want to ash this? I don't recommend ashing this personally, but there's a point where then Appaloosa can get put on board. If an Appaloosa is put on board before the Simorgh, then you would have missed an opportunity for that ash, and that could be devastating in the long run. So we're gonna go Fractal. Fractal is going to send into the graveyard the Cobalt Sparrow, and then the Warbler is going to special summon much like a Cyber Dragon, and that's going to activate. This is a card high priority negate 100%, because it starts everything off, gives you an additional search and additional body. It's 2 searches if you consider the count, which is why Droll is so important, because there's just too many searches to count. So yeah, I definitely want to Droll this. Add a Nerval into our hand. Okay, so that was one of the searches, and the next search that we're gonna go for is the Recital Starling. I have already searched 3 times total within the first 3 moves, and we're gonna activate this. We're gonna search another card, we're gonna detach 1, and now we're gonna add the Sapphire Swallow. That is a lot of searching. So drolling would be really effective, and the other part that would be extremely effective is kind of come up right now, which is the inability to banish. You can wait till they commit to a couple of cards onto the field before that. Now once you see a Tri-Brigade on the field, you can definitely throw a Lancia onto the board and just end it there, because without the Lancia, I think they can at this particular point they can still go into a Simorgh, but you don't have to deal with everything else that follows up with it, and you can even drop a Nibiru. If you have Lancia Nibiru, that is one of the more crippling ways to play, because even if they have a follow-up of a Tri-Brigade, they can't use that Tri-Brigade to generate a big Link monster, and that is essential. But remember, I have not normal summoned yet, and that's why that Lancia is one of the big win plays. Other things that you can also attempt to use would be stuff like Imperm and Veiler. There are a couple of key targets, like once they do the big banish, you can actually hit them with an Imperm or a Veiler, which gets rid of a lot of material without any return, which means reloading the graveyard becomes problematic. So that's where the target would go for. It's not going to go for the Simorgh. You can't target the big Simorgh, so if you get to the Simorgh, it's already too late. You have to hit the early stuff to prevent the board from getting out of control. Now, at this particular instance, we're going to go into the Harpy's Conductor. This is something that I saw Yishan do. I'm basically trying to mimic him move for move here. And he mainly loaded up the graveyard to go into Rugal. Like, even if it gets thrown by a Nibiru, because the normal summon have not occurred yet, then that means the Nerval is going to be able to add a Tri-Brigade monster at any particular point, which makes it kind of pointless. And then once they summon out the Kit or the Karis or whatever that gets added by the Nerval, you're kind of done. Like, you've burned your biggest hand trap, and you need a second hand trap to follow, which is why it's not the most effective, I would say. Definitely Gamma probably proves to be a bit more useful because it can actually kill the big bird. So if you nib them and then you have a Gamma to kill the bird that is the Simorgh Link, then you can have a really easy turn. But for the most part, it's going to be pretty difficult. So we're going to go for 3 because this is how they're going to bait up the Nibiru. They're just going to dig 3 cards, throw 3 cards away, and then they're going to go into a Rugal. Rugal here is going to go into the Appaloosa with the Nerval. So regardless, that Nerval is going to hit the graveyard. So now we got an Appaloosa on the field, and we're going to activate the Nerval. Nerval is going to add Tri-Brigade Kit. Kit's going to mill a card, and because there's so many cards loaded in the graveyard, we're going to maximize on it, and I believe he maximized it using a Shurigg. So we're going to activate the effect, and we're going to banish all 4, which is why Lancia is so important. We've banished so far twice. In other words, you got to take away game mechanics out from this particular deck. Do I want to banish a card? No. Then we're going to link this into a Farigir Baron Blossom. That's going to trigger both of the Shurigg and the Kit. Banishing is very important. We're going to toss into the graveyard the Tri-Brigade Oath, and we're going to add a Karis into our hand. Very important. Baron Blossom gets to summon out the Karis for free. So there's nothing really much you can do here. Even if it dies, it's just going to let them draw a card. So there's no value there. We're going to summon out the Karis. Karis can activate. That summons out. We're going to banish 2. And that's going to get ourselves the Double Dragon Lord. And these are the arrows that we were trying to force onto the field. And this gives us a bounce, negate. It's a lot to work with. You can keep the Karis, or you can get the additional draw. But basically, that Harpy's Conductor is done. And we can get rid of it. Go into that. Baron Blossom activates. You get to draw a card, get rid of a card. Like, a lot of the stuff maintains so much in the hand, it is ridiculous. And when you end the turn, this spits out a barrier statue. Now, in terms of breaking this board, it's not actually that simple. Oh, Dark Ruler no more. There's no spell trap negation. It's fine. There is spell trap negation. It's called Tri-Brigade Oath. That was tossed into the graveyard thanks to the Tri-Brigade Kit. The problem is that there is a wing beast, rather there's 2 wing beasts, a beast warrior, and a regular beast, and that allows the Tri-Brigade Oath to banish this card from the graveyard. And because it is a trap, you can banish it during your opponent's turn, and it will negate 1 face-up spell or trap your opponent controls, which makes it very difficult to clear. If you want to use spells and traps to clear this, you need to double up. You need to have 2. You can burn perhaps a Dark Ruler no more plus an evenly match. If you have both of those, you can empty this entire board no problem. And it's also really good because your opponent cannot recur any of those resources at all. So that's something that I find pretty ideal. Another way would be trying to bounce everything, but the problem is that look at the interactions that's on the board. 2 monster negate, 1 bounce, and 1 basically anti-play, and 1 follow-up that comes with it. It's not exactly the smallest thing, but if you can use a normal summon, sphere mode is pretty good. If you had smear mode, you would take care of the bird, probably. It'll take care of the statue and probably the double dragon, and you just run over the Appaloosa no problem, and you have to take care of the Karis as well because everything's loaded into the graveyard, which means the grave will fuel the link summoning coming the turn after. It can get problematic, so if your deck can afford the sphere mode, run the sphere mode. If not, you can use droplets. However, droplets is going to be costly. Unless you have a grave synergy with droplets, it's not exactly the easiest. And this barrier statue is also protected by the bird. That's one of the biggest things. And with the bird protecting it from being targeted, being run over is not exactly the easiest thing. You're kind of like playing under Vanity's ruler while getting your only summon bounced. It will become problematic. Another card that you can attempt to use is Super Poly. Super Poly could completely clear the entire board. You take all 3 links and go into an Armaduke. Armaduke is, well, I believe it can attack multiple monsters, and it's also a win. So you can actually summon it under the barrier statue, and you get rid of all of the big threats. Not even Oath can take care of that particular issue because Oath can't respond to it. And that's why Super Poly is pretty busted, and the Armaduke is a well-worthy asset to break a board like this, and it's very big too. It's definitely worth trying. If Tri-Brigade's giving you an issue, or sorry, Lyralist Tri-Brigade's giving you an issue, then consider Super Poly as well. Those are some of the best options I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, evenly matched should be pretty good. Dark Hole should be pretty good. Raigeki, stuff that just are mass wipe because there's just no protection on this particular board. But again, it needs to double up, and you can't really use Kaiju Slumber. And the only Kaiju that really works is Gadarla because it's the only win Kaiju. And after that, maybe you can use Kaiju Slumber. But that's kind of my rundown here, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys, refresh something, learned a thing or two about breaking boards. Well, smash the thumbs up button for me, guys. Really appreciate it. And, well, that's all I got for this one. Hit subscribe, ding the notification bell. Thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. I'll stay healthy. You guys stay healthy. And that's all I got for this one. So I'll see you guys in the next one.